What an embarrassment if you were to buy a football club that you fought 2 years to own with the richest foundations or owners that the football world has ever seen and then get relegated. Welcome to this week's edition of One-2-One with Simon Jordan. Don't forget, most importantly, to keep liking and subscribing, and equally importantly, to leave your questions in the comment section below. But let's get my glasses on, let's get ready to go. Dele Alli is missing in action, has been for 2 years. So the question is whether he's worth the gamble. Well, it's not a financial gamble because the economics of the deal seem to be very, very little. It's a gamble for Frank Lampard to utilise Dele Alli to try and find a solution to the Everton problem, which is a team which is dysfunctional, seems to be devoid of any spirit, work ethic and commitment to the cause. And Frank making him one of his keynote signings alongside Donny van der Beek makes it a challenge for him. Dele Alli, you know, is an avatar of himself. I don't know what's become of him. Once upon a time he was a player that was lauded and applauded as the next big thing. And I've had conversations with top people like Gordon Strachan that told me absolutely I was looking at it wrong. He's the best number 10 in the country. Yet we've seen him go, as I say, MIA for the last 2 or 3 years, and I think that's an attitude thing. Once you've got that attitude, it's difficult to get it out of you. Frank Lampard is going to have to find a way to do so. But is he worth the money? Is he worth the investment? Is he worth the time? Well, we're going to find out really quickly because Everton fans don't need a flighty, sort of flesh, once upon a time good player. They need someone that's really dialed in and knuckling down and getting some hard yards into their game. And Everton fans, more than any other fans, want that from their players, expect it from their players and demand it from their players. And I fear that that is something that Dele Alli isn't capable of. I hope to be wrong. Who wants anything other than young, talented English players to come to the fore so that we can have a talented national side, But Dele Alli to Everton, it's not a fit I like, and I'm not sure it's going to produce any outcomes, but I hope to be wrong. Arteta and Arsenal, it isn't just Arteta that's got to handle Aubameyang, it's the technical director or sporting director Edu, it's the owner or his son Kroenke, and look at the whole carnage of Aubameyang, from signing him on a contract that puts him on levels of finances that, despite his achievements at Arsenal, were probably unrealistic, from the management of the player's outlook through to the manager not finding a way to either get the player to redeem himself or to illustrate he's not going to be a recidivist, as in someone that repeats the offences that clearly have upset Arteta. I'd like to think this wasn't Arteta taking out the biggest name in the dressing room to make everybody understand that he means business. Of course, Arteta's cut from a certain cloth. He follows the direction of his messiah, which is Guardiola. Remember Guardiola having challenges with Zlatan Ibrahimovic and the difficulty and personality there. So this is not something that Arteta hasn't seen, not necessarily seen the Ibrahimovic challenges, but been aware of the way that Guardiola manages. I think it's a poor outcome. Nobody's won out of this. The club paid £58 million for a player, put him onto a new contract 18 months ago on 17, 18, 19, 20 million pound a year. I've got very little return for it. The player's gone skulking out of Arsenal, photobombing Barcelona into giving him a contract on possibly half the money. So nobody wins. Well, I'm a deep-seated disliker of the transfer window. I think it's a restriction of trade. I've never liked it. I think it's show business dressed up in media when we're talking about sport. And I think the transfer window should never be closed. I think it should be open from the close of the season all the way through to the March of the following, so that people can trade and buy players as and when they need to, rather than have the transfer windows jack up the prices, jack up the opportunity for that ghastly species of agent that gets an opportunity to just decide how much money they can rinse out of the equation. But if we're having to drag me kicking and screaming into who might have had the best transfer window, I suspect it's probably Newcastle, because their needs must. What an embarrassment if you were to buy a football club that you fought 2 years to own with the richest foundations or owners that the football world has ever seen and then get relegated. So to spend less than you targeted, to get 4 or 5 very good players in, to give you that little bit of lift, to probably drag you out of the bottom 3, details that you probably had the best transfer window, or there is a debate, an argument, that Aston Villa and what's bubbling under the pot there, simmering with the Gerrard revolution, could lay a claim and stake a claim for Coutinho. Cute business move. Take Coutinho, £150 million footballer, by the way, who wasn't worth 150 million, into your camp for £4 million, a fraction of his wages. Looks like the Hollywood signing of all Hollywood signings, scores a goal on his debut. Take Lucas Dean out of Everton, put him into Aston Villa, and you look like you're building a side. So I think it's a closely run debate between Newcastle on a needs-must basis, so they may buy them out of the trouble they found themselves in, or Aston Villa, because we might just be seeing the building of a foundation. You know what happens with foundations? They underpin buildings. When they go up, and they make them stay up. I have mixed emotions about Frank's appointment to Everton. On one hand, I very much like Frank Lampard as a player. I think he's a very sensible commentator in terms of his observations about sports, specifically football, obviously. I'm not sure, without it being Frank Lampard, which it never could be for him, obviously, that his body of work would have got him the Everton job. Derby and not getting them promoted, doesn't detail that you get the Chelsea job. You get the Chelsea job because you're the favourite son of Chelsea, yet you find yourself drop-kicked out of the door at Chelsea when the going gets tough. And I'm not sure their credentials for yet another billionaire to take Frank Lampard in and to fix the particular problem that they've got at Everton, which is a complete amputation of any spirit or direction, primarily because the owner hasn't been able to find a clue about what to do. Now, Frank coming in, what is very encouraging for me, insofar as I'm concerned about whether Frank Lampard is successful or not, is that he's bringing people like Paul Clement in that will give him the proper backroom staff that I think will help him move on. So that shows real IQ and nous on his part and awareness of what he may have been lacking in other areas. I worry for the appointments. I worry for the model that he's going to work with, because I'm not sure Moshiri knows, with due respect to him, he knows more about making money than I'll ever know. But I'm not entirely sure he knows enough about the football club that he's had 6 years of experience on and should be a sum of all the managerial appointments. Because when I hear his press conference talking about the appointment was based upon Frank Lampard coming from a footballing family, that's not the reason why Frank Lampard gets a job. Frank Lampard gets a job because he gets Everton. He gets the squad that he's got. He understands what he's got to do and is capable of building a platform for him to leap off. And I mean leap up into the air, not into the abyss. So I worry for that appointment. None of them. They're all a motley crew. Who would I like to be if I was trapped on a desert island with my Wilson of a ball, like from Castaway, and which talkSPORT presenter? Do you know, that's a difficult one to ask, and then for me to answer. Depends upon my mood. If I was someone to looking to gauge the brain, it'd be Danny Kelly. If I was listening for someone to keep me awake and keep me full of energy, it'll be Jim White. If I was looking for someone to put me to sleep, probably Andy Goldstein. So that's it for this week's edition of One-to-One with Simon Jordan. Don't forget to let me know your thoughts on Arteta, Lampard, and the missing in action DELE ALLI. And of course, to like and subscribe, and equally important, to leave your questions in the comment section below. I look forward to seeing you next week.